Welcome to the Crop Insurance Podcast, the podcast where we dive deep into the world of crop insurance. I'm your host, Mike Rydell, a third-generation crop insurance agent, and I'm thrilled to have you join me on this educational journey. At our family-owned and operated business, we've been providing crop insurance expertise for generations. Our goal here is simple, to educate our listeners. Crop insurance can be complex and overwhelming, but I believe that understanding it is crucial for every farmer. So whether you're a seasoned farmer looking to stay updated or a newcomer seeking guidance, this podcast is for you. Let's take a moment to thank some of our sponsors of the Crop Insurance Podcast. Our title sponsor, McNeil Insurance Agency, are probably your greatest insurance agents ever. They specialize in federal crop insurance and have since 1979. To visit their website, go to www.greatestagencyever.com. The McNeil Insurance Agency is a proud partner with the Crop West Insurance Group. Welcome to today's episode, which is part 2 of our written agreement series. If you haven't already listened to part 1 of our written agreement podcast, I suggest you go back to listen as it gives you a high-level overview of what a written agreement is and the 22 rules that govern all written agreement types. There are 16 types of written agreements. In today's episode, we're going to go through the 16 different types and give you a general idea of what they could be used for. Now, this list is not meant to be all-inclusive. It's to give you a high overview of what types of written agreements there are out there. So if you have a crop or a condition on your operation that you're looking to get coverage for, you may find this useful. Like our previous podcast, we're going to be using our Crop Insurance Podcast AI to help read through the definitions of what each of these written agreement types are. So sit back, relax, and enjoy learning about the 16 different types of written agreements.
Written agreement type. Number 1. Code HR. High risk rated areas. Definition: used when a request is submitted to change an existing high risk rated area premium rate.
With this written agreement request, you're able to take high-risk land and try to receive a premium reduction based on that high-risk rating according to different sets of rules and guidelines within this written agreement, should you qualify.
Written agreement type number 2. Code NB. New breaking. Definition: used when a request is to establish coverage on acreage not planted and harvested or insured in one of the 3 previous crop years that is not insurable under the terms of the policy.
If you have more than 320 acres that have not been planted or harvested or insured in at least one of the 3 previous crop years, and you're looking to plant an insurable crop and you want to get coverage for it, the new break written agreement type is a great opportunity to do so should you qualify with their underwriting guidelines.
Written agreement type number 3. Code NL. Nursery plant list. Definition: used when a request is to establish coverage for unlisted nursery plant materials.
The nursery crop policy only allows written agreements to be requested for plants that are not listed on the each eligible plant list and plant price schedule, also known as the EPL PPS. No other written agreement types are available for nursery crops. To find the EPL PPS list, head over to our website and check out our written agreement article where we have that link published.
Written agreement type number 4. Code OP. Unrated insurance option. Definition: used when a request is to establish coverage for an unrated insurance option that does not have a premium rate on the actuarial documents.
You might find yourself in a situation where there's a specific insurance option or endorsement that you want to add to your policy, but in your actuarial documents for your county, there isn't a premium rate for it. And with insurance, if there's no rate for it, you cannot add it. Well, if that option or endorsement allows for you to add it via a written agreement, you would use this written agreement request to establish coverage.
Written agreement type number 5. Code PE. Policy exceptions. Definition: used to request policy changes specifically permitted by the crop policy that is not otherwise referred to within the written agreement handbook.
This type of written agreement request is mainly used for perennial crops. Depending on what part of the United States you're in and what's grown there, it may apply for different types of crops. One of the more commonly used ones is something like low-yield grapes. In some cases, there may be other methods to get what you're after, and it might not be appropriate to use this type of written agreement request. This is just one of those things that you really do need to look to your crop insurance agent to help guide you on which is the correct way to go.
Written agreement type number 6. Code RE. Rotation exceptions. Definition: used when rotation exceptions are requested to be authorized.
Part of crop insurance, there are rotational requirements baked into the policy in terms of insurability for different crops following a rotation requirement set forth in the policy. If you're looking to get an exception to that crop rotation, this written agreement type might be an option for you. There are very few instances where rotation exceptions can or should be made by a written agreement, so keep that in mind that you do need to do your due diligence prior to applying for this written agreement.
Written agreement type number 7. Code SC. Special purpose corn. Definition: used when a request is to establish coverage for special purpose corn.
If your county's actuarial documents don't contain the special purpose type of corn you're trying to establish coverage for, then this written agreement request type is for you. Having said that, you do need to consult the written agreement handbook to see how they define special purpose corn to see if the type you're after fits that definition.
Written agreement type number 8. Code SG. Interplanted with another crop. Definition: used when a request is to establish coverage for crops interplanted with another crop where separate agronomic maintenance or separate harvest cannot occur.
If you have 2 or more crops that are planted in a manner that allows you to maintain those crops separately or harvest them separately, those types of crops are not considered interplanted and would not be applicable for this type of written agreement. Only one of the crops in an interplanted crop may be considered for insurance under this type of written agreement. The other interplanted crops would remain uninsurable.
Written agreement type number 9. Code SM. Strip mined land. Definition: used when a request is to establish coverage for strip mined land where the crop has been produced less than 5 crop years.
If you're trying to get a crop insured that's on strip mine land, there's a whole host of rules and qualifications under this written agreement type in order to get insurance for it. But if the ground meets the certain qualifications, there is the opportunity to get coverage.
Written agreement type number 10. Code SP. Seed potato acreage. Definition: used when a request is to insure seed potato acreage that is greater than 125% of the average number of acres entered into and passing certification in the Potato Certified Seed Program in the 3 previous crop years.
This written agreement type is talking about seed potato acreage, obviously, and it's referring to the capping of the liability on those acres under your policy.
Written agreement type number 11. Code TC. Non-irrigated corn grain. Definition: used when a request is to establish coverage for non-irrigated corn grain where only irrigated corn grain and irrigated or non-irrigated corn silage are listed on the actuarial documents.
This one's pretty straightforward. If you're in a county or an area where irrigated corn grain is the only type available in your actuarial documents and you're trying to get non-irrigated insured, you'd want to use this type of written agreement request.
Written agreement type number 12. Code TD. Dry bean types. Definition: used when a request is to establish coverage for types of dry beans not on the actuarial documents.
This one is very similar to the PE or policy exception written agreement request type, but it addresses dry beans. In the PE written agreement type, they specifically state that you cannot use dry beans under that written agreement type and that you have to use this written agreement type.
Written agreement type number 13. Code TP. Unrated practice/type. Definition: used when a request is to establish coverage for an unrated practice/type.
If you have a type of unrated practice or type for an insurable crop in your area, this might be a way to try to get it insured using this written agreement. It does get tricky when looking at spring types versus fall types, as the deadlines can get muddied a little bit, so be aware of that.
Written agreement type number 14. Code UA. Written Unit Agreement. Definition: used when a request is to establish optional units by written agreement in accordance with the policy.
This type of written agreement is only available to establish optional units for crops where the crop policy allows for optional units. This is one of the ones that I have the most experience with, and I can tell you it is fairly tricky to navigate, as there is some gray area in the rules when defining unit boundaries. And so you do really need to work hand in hand with your agent and RMA, or your RO, your regional office, to get these approved, but they're willing to work with you. It's just a lot of work to do these. We will have a written unit agreement episode sometime down the line, as this is one of those ones that gets used a lot in our part of the country.
Written Agreement Type Number 15. Code XC. County without actuarial documents. Definition: used when a request is to establish coverage for a crop in a county with no actuarial documents for the crop.
This is another written agreement type that I have a lot of experience with, as it's used fairly frequently in central Montana, as there are crops that growers like to produce that there are no county actuarial documents or information for, but based on the set of criteria under this written agreement type, they can find coverage for it. One of the ones that you see a lot is corn in Montana, or flax in certain counties in Montana. So it's used very widely. There's just a lot of rules and regulations behind it, and we'll do a podcast episode on this one as well later on.
Written Agreement Type Number 16. Code UC. Unrated land. Definition: used when a request is to establish coverage on acreage designated as unrated on the actuarial documents.
Depending on how you interpret the written agreement handbook, you'll either come up with 15 written agreement types or 16 written agreement types. In the written agreement handbook, they lump HR and UC types together as one written agreement type. I break them out, as do some other crop insurance agents, because you do use different codes and they do different things. So for UC, you are looking to get coverage for unrated land in your county, and so you have to use this written agreement type code in order to get that accomplished. Well, there you have it. There's your 16 different types of written agreement requests that are available. So head on over to our website at thecropinsurancepodcast.com. You'll find an article there that discusses some of these written agreement requests, has links to various resources that you can download and look at, and is just a very helpful resource for you when investigating which type of written agreement request to use. Coming up on a later episode, we'll talk about what's required information for new or renewal written agreement requests, what the different responsibilities are for your AIP or regional office, and what the timeline looks like in terms of accepting or rejecting a written agreement. And that should help us wrap up our general overview of written agreements. From my family to yours, thank you very much for listening. I sincerely hope that this presentation has been instrumental in enhancing your understanding of federal crop insurance. If you find value in our podcast, we kindly encourage you to subscribe and spread the word among your friends and neighbors. To access further information, please visit our website at thecropinsurancepodcast.com, where you'll find the latest podcast episodes, articles, and exciting new features conveniently located in one place. This information is not all-inclusive and is meant to be used only as general guidelines for educational purposes. For additional information, please see crop provisions, reference the Crop Insurance Handbook or Loss Adjustment Manual, or contact your crop insurance agent. This institution is an equal opportunity provider and employer.